with you that which we've uncovered, how we uncovered it, and the conclusions drawn therefrom. I'll also share with you how the racketeering enterprises inextricably are intertwined with election fraud. In addition to purchase and sales of single-family residence, cash is laundered through inflated and falsified construction invoices, falsified charitable donations, tuitions paid on fake students allegedly attending private trade schools, and falsified bankruptcies. In addition to impacting local elections, bribes and infiltration were used to affect the outcome of the races during the November 3rd, 2020 election, including the outcome of the race for Maricopa County Recorder and the outcome of the November 8th, 2022 election, race for Governor, Secretary of State, and Attorney General. Public officials who have received bribes include multi-state office holders, State House and State Senate, local office holders, county supervisors, judges in the Maricopa Supreme Court, judges of some city courts, including 2 presiding judges, judges' assistants, prosecutors within certain cities within Maricopa County, prosecutors for Maricopa County, peripheral legal specialists, including attorneys, approved mental health care providers, as in court-appointed advisors and related specialists. In the Superior Court of Maricopa County and Pinal County and Pima County, at least 25% of the active judges have accepted bribes in exchange for protecting the racketeering activities. Bribe payments generally begin before the individual is even appointed to the bench. Hundreds upon hundreds of falsified court documents have been loaded into the database. These documents include falsified default judgments, criminal restitution orders, child support orders, all of these used in swatting activities against individuals posing a threat to the racketeering activities. In 2018, Mr. Thaler discovered, incidental to a completely independent matter, a series of trust deeds evidencing that cash laundered through single-family residences in Arizona was pervasive and ongoing. The investigation originally focused on fake notarizations, fake deeds of trust, fraudulent buyers and or sellers of the real property transactions, as well as other companies used in real estate transactions, such as real estate brokers, mortgage companies, title and escrow companies, real estate inspection companies, service companies, and so on. Over 120,000 documents have been reviewed to date. These documents have definitely evidenced multiple racketeering enterprises, which include narcotic sales, money laundering, tax evasion, payroll theft, bankruptcy fraud, life insurance fraud, auto insurance fraud, bribing of elected and appointed officials, creating and modifying public record, falsifying professional licenses and related credentials, swatting individuals who pose a threat to these enterprises, and last but not least, election fraud. The database for the University of Arizona and Arizona State and Northern Arizona have been infiltrated and hacked. It permits individuals to be given degrees who never attended or graduated from these schools, and allows phantom individuals to be awarded degrees, thus lending legitimacy to their existence. Further, state licensing databases have been infiltrated and hacked to permit individuals with fake degrees to permit phantom individuals to have state licenses issued. And these licenses, like accounting, or real estate, mental health care, even law licenses, we have seen phantom attorneys registered with the state bar. The Maricopa County database for the Recorder's Office and for the Superior Court were designed in 2014. They were set up for outside infiltration so that falsified documents could be uploaded or legitimate documents removed. To date, more than 10,000 falsified documents have been recorded with the Maricopa County Recorder's Office. We estimate that more than 35,000 warranty deeds and trust deeds evidencing fraudulent transactions exist in the database. The number of falsified notarizations exceeds over 15,000. Since 2010, money laundering has exceeded $7.5 billion. In Arizona, laundered cash is used in part to bribe elected and appointed public officials and their support staff.
So how would Mr. Thaler know that Governor Ducey shared this with the Attorney General's office?
because the Governor Ducey and Mr. Thaler were in contact.
Thank you, Ms. Brager. You're a brave woman.
Thank you, Madam
Brave
Chair.
woman.
Thank you. Very brave. You got my attention.
Well, you sure as hell got my attention, too. This is wild. All right, folks, welcome aboard. We just jumped on tonight live because I just couldn't wait until Wednesday to cover this. I mean, I'm guessing that most of you have heard about these allegations, and I don't even know that they're allegations at this point. This investigation's been going on since 2019. This was so. If you're not aware of what happened here, it all stems from the Katie Hobbs, Arizona election piece and the lawsuits being held, and or at least attempting to be held. And I know, when it comes to it, that there was one case that was brought up. I heard it. I sat there and watched it. I thought it was a pretty damning case, but it was dismissed and it didn't go anywhere. But this one is different. So this is a lot bigger than an accusation about election fraud. I mean, so here's how it went down for those of you who, are just, this is completely new to you. There were investigations going on in Iowa and multiple other states regarding the Mexican drug cartels and money laundering. Those investigations really didn't have anything necessarily to do with election fraud or any of that. They were looking into it from the standpoint of money laundering. And there were many real estate agents, mortgage brokers, etc., that had all been prosecuted successfully as a result of those investigations. And I guess they were asked to hold on one second. I just want to pull something up here real quick. So they were asked at some point to look into Arizona and Maricopa County in particular, and just see what it was, see if there was any connection between the two. And sure enough, when they looked into it, they found a lot of the laundering, and a lot of the agents, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, etc., that had been arrested and convicted. A lot of their dealings were moving into Arizona, and in particular Maricopa County and a couple others, and that the money laundering schemes for these single family homes, much of which was in new construction, was 100% going on. And then that took them down a road further to really start to dig. And what they started uncovering as they followed the money, as they say, is wild. I mean, so what she's telling, and she was speaking to the Senate election and House Municipal Oversight and Elections Joint Committee in Arizona. That's a long name for a committee, but they were there to listen to this, and it's so wild. So they basically uncovered a lot of these properties and things of that nature being attributable to public officials all over Arizona in virtually every aspect of Arizona life. I mean, so here's some of the people, local office holders, judges of the Supreme Court of Arizona involved, county supervisors, city court judges, judges' assistants, prosecutors within certain cities in Maricopa, prosecutors for Maricopa, periphery legal specialists. So like people that they would bring in as experts were also in on the bribery. Approved mental health providers, meaning when they bring in experts in mental health, these people were also in on the racketeering. The racketeering it's so deep. It affects almost every aspect of life in Arizona. I mean, it was clear to me that there was dirty stuff going on in Arizona to some degree. I couldn't put my finger on it, but you saw the results going on. You saw the way they operated, like the fact that their election was still a mess, even though they were under a magnifying glass. And it's like, the fact that all these things were going on just reeked of something ugly. But these people are breaking out, and they're naming names. This isn't like, it's not like they're saying, well, generally speaking, we think that maybe this person, or we have, no, they're like this judge, that judge. They're dropping names. They dropped a list of like 13 or 15 people in particular. And that list was just a piece of what they have. I mean, this is wild. This is as wild as anything I've seen. I mean, with the level of infiltration that the cartels seem to have had here. I mean, she outlines in detail exactly how they're doing it. Like, and she says, like, they're let me see, they're using falsified tuitions, bankruptcies, fake charitable giving, and they're doing this by having infiltrated and all of their internal systems, including major universities, the county record keepers, and that it was some 100,000 documents. I think she said. Don't quote me on the 100,000. It might have been 15, which would still be a hell of a lot, but I'm pretty sure it was 100,000 that were uploaded to the county clerk, to the county recorder's office. All falsified court documents, like wild. They had full access to upload or remove anything they wanted, and did it with regularity. I mean, it's just, I don't think people are really wrapping their head around the accusations that this woman just dropped. And if she has, and it looks like they do, have all of the evidence for this, number one, they ended that off by saying, you're very brave. Yeah, I'll say she's very brave. She's like, better have an armored car driving home kind of brave. Like this is, the amount of cojones to go ahead and do this puts this woman on the level of next level patriot. All right. As far as I'm concerned, her life is at risk as much as anybody in any position in American life. I mean, for her to drop all this, I'm just curious to know what you guys think. But like, I mean, again, she says initially this was an investigation of fake mortgages, deeds, transactions that were going on in other states and how they related to Arizona. And then that's what led down this trail. Like, that's what led down this wild trail of madness. I mean, the corruption here is so insane. All right. So it's hundreds of falsified documents were uploaded directly to the courts. All right. And again, Supreme Court judges, judges' assistants, prosecutors, all of these people are in on this racketeering. All of them. I mean, it's just, there's absolutely nowhere. Like, who do you go to? I don't even know how they prosecute this. Like how do you even have someone on the state level prosecute this? Like, I feel like when this is done, everybody is suspect. Everybody is suspect. Right? I mean, who's not suspect in this? Like if you think about it, right? Like what are who's gonna prosecute it? She confirmed that multiple prosecutors were on the take. So who's gonna prosecute this, right? Who's gonna sit as the judge? I mean, even SCOTUS judges, for Arizona SCOTUS judges, Supreme Court, even they've been, and she's got names. Like, again, she's not sitting here now. At that hearing, they were kind of curbing her and sort of reeling her in, like, and they weren't doing it because they didn't want to hear it. They were doing it because they were there specifically to hear about election fraud. But like, in the end, even though they were there to hear election fraud, she went up there with the intent that, look, she's got 4 years worth of investigation in her pocket, and like, she's not going to just not talk about that, right? And they let her talk. It's not like they were cutting her off all the time. But Carrie Lake, is I'm sure the one who brought this in with her people to go ahead and try and find that connection, because Carrie Lake is on a mission. Don't get it twisted. Carrie Lake is on a mission. I mean, if you remember, we broadcast on election night and the day after because it started getting so late. And the one thing I was saying on election night before the results were in was the two races I was watching in particular, as far as a national scale, was Carrie Lake and Fetterman. Because I really wanted to see if even after Biden that they would elect someone with brain impairments into office, and then Carrie Lake, because there's no way Carrie Lake statistically could have lost that election, was my mindset beforehand. And immediately, first thing in the morning, I heard about the issues, and I was just like, all right, dialed in. I'm watching, right? You got my attention. And so, I dialed in with focus there because, to me, Carrie Lake, I lost my pen here. Uh, to me, Carrie Lake was a big story. And sure enough, it turned out to be. And as a result, and Carrie Lake's just such the firecracker that, like, she ain't letting this go. She ain't letting it go. She ran on this. She ran on the entire, belief that she believes there was election fraud, and she's been ostracized. And look, count your newscasters now too, folks. Count your newscasters. I don't care who it is that you watch. Those that know me, I ain't here picking sides, Republican, Democrat, whatever. Obviously, I hate Marxists, or I can't stand Marxists, but I always, even them, I give them a chance to turn around and see the light. But as far as Democrat, Republican, this is beyond that. I guarantee you that they pull Republicans out of this scheme. I guarantee everyone's getting caught up in this one. Everyone. I don't see any political party being able to walk away from this unscathed. And it may be that the Dems take it a little worse because I'm assuming that the evidence that this woman is presenting, right, is legitimate, but they're dropping names. And like for you to go in there and drop judge names, and like for you to go in there and do that you've got the goods. And this has been going on. There are people who have already been arrested and convicted for the racketeering crimes and laundering. So it's not like they haven't been successful here. Now the question is going to be: she said she turned this stuff in to the FBI and to other agencies, and the question's really going to become, all right, well, you turned it in, but how much faith do you guys have, that the FBI is going to do anything about this? I mean, this law firm did this on their own. All right. Again, you couldn't have counted on local police to do it. She actually said in Maricopa, I believe it was Maricopa, she was mentioning 2 or 3 counties around, but in one of them, inside the police department, there was an additional private police force that were all on the racketeering take. And they were all benefiting from this money laundering scheme that was coming from the cartels. And so, you've got police out there. I mean, every one of your worst fears about what could happen to a given government have happened in Arizona. And, it being now, if I'm living in Texas or New Mexico, I'm immediately running investigations along. I'm contacting these people immediately, and I'm running those investigations because there's no way the cartel said just Arizona. Every border state is of value to them. And frankly, I don't know that there aren't more than just border states. Like, if they found that much success in Arizona, like, everyone needs to do a check right now. Like, everyone needs to run a check. But if you're in a border state, this is something you need to demand. I know California ain't going to do it. California, they're probably, they're probably adding to the payouts. But they're saying, I mean, she's alleging that they're actually issuing fines and actually, like, punishing people in an attempt to swat them, right? And when she says swat, she means make them go away, right? Like, literally swat them out of the way if they're getting too close, or they're making things tough, or they're getting in the way of the racketeering. And it's just amazing to me, the amount of money that she stated was getting put forth. I mean, it was in the billions. Since 2010, the money was in the billions. I mean, we're talking serious. Now we're also talking the cartels, right? So this hits the border issue. This hits state politics. This hits national politics because it's affecting elections. And Arizona magically turned blue. And she's saying, from what she's saying is that elected officials were on the bribe from top to bottom. I mean, right down to court specialists that come in to testify. Like they just, I mean, it's. I don't even think the mafia, the old school mafia, had it at this level. I mean, this is just absolutely frightening. How much infiltration they've gotten. It's stunning to me that it could be that crazy, that wild. But here it is. I mean, it's that wild, and I just sit here. What did she say? She said 20. She said 25% of active judges in 3 counties have accepted bribes. Right. So she's not saying 25, like she's saying they know they've accepted these bribes. And how do they know? Because they followed the money. This started by them looking into these houses, these single family houses, most of which were new construction, and started finding the money laundering. And as they went down the trail, well, where did that money go? Who sold? So these are houses that a lot of them don't exist. Okay, these are houses. So what are they doing? Why did she mention the universities? Because they're accessing university databases and literally giving out degrees to people who haven't earned them. They're accessing county databases and giving licenses, state licenses and county licenses for things like real estate and other stuff, brokerage and whatnot. And then they're using those people that they gave the fake licenses to fill out all the paperwork and make everything look legit. I mean, it's incredibly deep how they went ahead and did this. Yeah, Mike Arnold says, one eye on you, one eye on Wyoming. So for those that don't know, Wyoming right now are taking a vote. And he says they're voting now. So Mike Arnold's got a link, so he'll jump on if Wyoming does become number 20. That would be outstanding. We've passed every other chamber. This is the final one. So let's see what happens with Wyoming. I'll know if I see Mike jump on here. If I see Mike's face pop up, we'll know we have a verdict. So, but until then, I want to stick with this Carrie Lake piece and this Hobbs piece, because look, the whole situation in Maricopa has been a hot mess for a while. Now, I did not expect it to be this wild. Like, I thought it would be like, if they uncover something, then it would be some corruption involved with Hobbs's position as Secretary of State and some manipulation of documents or something like that. Like what these people have uncovered here, though, is absolutely wild. Everyone from soup to nuts. Like, you can't trust anybody in Arizona right now. I don't even know, like even the people on that panel, on that committee that were hearing this, like you got to question everybody now. It's almost like you're suspect just for having been elected to anything in Maricopa right now. Now, and these other counties. I mean, there were 2 other counties that she was mentioning. So, like, if you're a citizen of Arizona now, and really, if you're any kind of follower of this show, then you know that we're not shocked, right? This is not stunning, right? What happened here? It's not a shocker, unfortunately, because we all think like this, right? We all think like this, so we all see. So we're not shocked. Susie Silook over at Facebook. I wonder who is next door, with many people coming and going. I'm glad no one is there right now after the fire. I'm not sure if we're on the same topic here. So where are we talking about, Susie? I'm on the topic of this Arizona situation with here we go. Roll call vote happening right now, folks. So you will be on live to find out if Wyoming is going to be number 20, man. Everybody say a prayer. Let's just hope this goes through, man. We need that win. we got a lot of different states going on right now, and I didn't even see Wyoming coming. So if we could pull out Wyoming, that would be amazing. But yeah, so some of the other ways that they were falsifying bankruptcies, they were falsifying charity donations, falsifying tuitions for phantom students that never went. And when I first heard that, I was like, well, how do you even do that? Like, how do you even falsify a tuition when, the university would have to show a record of that tuition? And then she follows it up with, they're able to upload and remove any documents they want from two major universities in the counties. And it's like, holy smokes, dude. Like the level. Now, what I didn't hear, and I hope I didn't miss it, because I was watching it kind of while I was working today, and I hope I didn't miss it. But she did say that they were concerned about the computers during the elections, and she said, "Well, I'm going to get to that," but I don't think she ever got to it, because she was kind of going down a path that was getting off the election integrity and getting on to racketeering and staying in the racketeering space. And while I was still captivated by that, and wanted to just sit there and watch it, it was right for them to get her back on pace to the election fraud specifically, because that is what they were there to hear. And so there should be another committee, though, that's hearing the rest of this stuff, because this is just bombshell type of stuff. And the fact that, kudos to Elon Musk, because really the way that this information got out, even though you'll be like, well, it was a public hearing and this and that, nobody's talking about, nobody's talking about it. You don't hear the blockbuster nature of this on the level that it is. Like I've heard people talk about it. There are videos done about it. There are people who, have touched base with it, but they haven't to me, like when I watched it, I feel like no video that I've seen on it so far has done it any justice. Like, to me, this is just groundbreaking. And so Susie's clarifying here: migrants next door weaponized against me, according to the men I confronted, and funded by Alaska Pacific University, a land theft institution. Yeah, so you're dealing with it on the ground there, Susie. Um, I don't, I don't know. I don't deal with it as much. I guess I should, because I'm in California, but I'm not near LA or San Francisco or any of the real hot spots that they go to. Apparently, though, I was looking into, Arizona and the cartel involvement there and things like that. Like, they apparently have a major fentanyl hub in Phoenix, that apparently is known. Like, it's apparently a known entity, and is allowed to operate. It kind of explains some of that, right? And I would expect that Phoenix is probably, like, Phoenix is another major U.S. city that was once a beautiful place and is on the way down as it gets pulled down by these insane, catch and release policies. Don't arrest anyone. Let prisoners go. Like, they're dealing with all that. And I have sad news from Wyoming. So, despite passing committee in both House and Senate, as well as passing the House, the Senate, it has failed. So it has failed. As you see on the screen there, Mike Arnold has come up 41 to 21. But the good news is this is farthest we've ever gotten in Wyoming, which is why they were not on my radar. But that being said, it would have been amazing to see Wyoming come in as number 20. But unfortunately, that will not be the case. But still, kudos to the grassroots. Kudos to the grassroots out in Wyoming. I know, you guys definitely should be proud of the progress that was made there. There's clearly a lot of reading that needs to get done on the Senate side of Wyoming, and they clearly have not gotten there yet. And when I say a lot of reading needs to get done, I mean they need every one of these legislatures. If you follow them through, they start out scared because John Birch Society, the Soros organizations like Daily Kos and Common Cause, they're all on the same team here, bizarrely enough, and they send out scary material if you don't know and you're not educated on what a convention of states is, for proposing amendments and how it's held, then it's easy to scare you. And as you listen to these legislatures that begin to read, they pass it. South Carolina didn't pass for a long time, then all of a sudden, boom, they passed it. And like, it is what it is. But like, the good thing is I know the grassroots over there in Wyoming, I mean, they know where to focus now, right? You know, when state elections come to bear, you know where the pain needs to be, right? And at the same time, the people who exist now, you know who needs to be educated. And a lot of these people, even though they vote against, they're not bad people per se, they're just ignorant, they just don't know. And they allow themselves, without researching, to be scared into, you know, yeah. And Mike makes a good point. I can only imagine the pressure these representatives were under tonight. Yeah, and that's the thing. So they're getting, look, it's a lot of the ones who turned over, like the states who ended up voting for and passing it. Like last year, we got 16, 17, 18, and 19 across, and we still have some we're going to get across this year. But the pressure's on right now, right? So, it's imperative that these folks do their reading, because when you hear them talk, they say, like, I was against this for years until one constituent sat me down, gave me some materials, and set me down a path. I did the reading, and now I'm not only for it, I'm wholeheartedly for it. And that story goes on and on and on and on and on. Of all the people that leave the John Birch Society over this issue because they read on it and then they can't answer the question, why would they be so against it if they claim to be pro-Constitution? Like there's, little by little, right? We turn these states, and I think the ones, as we gain more this year, and we will get 4 or 5 this year, and as we go through and add those on, and that number gets higher and higher, I think we will bring them to bear, and I think that we will get this to a place where they start doing the reading. We'll start hearing those same type of comments, and you'll see states like Wyoming and others turn over and start and see the light, and read know their constitution, and empower, and use their constitutionally given power to restrict the power of the federal government, and that's really what it's all about. um, Yeah, he says they need to be read in. Yeah, that's true. It's true. Like these folks need to take the time, and believe me, there's enough grassroots that'll sit down and do it for them, and spend the time to educate them and get them up to speed and get them to where they need to be. Because like I was really looking forward to Wyoming. I thought we had great momentum, and we did. We did have great momentum there. But it was clear that all the efforts were focused in one area, and that area was clearly the Senate floor. So all the anti-efforts were focused on the Senate floor. So while we're passing all the other chambers, they're focused. The enemy's focusing on the Senate, and it is what it is. I mean, but there's clearly a good amount of people that need an education there, and I have all the confidence in the world that the grassroots will get it. Will get it to them. So, but just on this, you know, and I wish that there was something here that could be done, about the Arizona situation. Now, Article 5 is not going to fix the Arizona situation. This is a state institution. So that makes this even more disturbing. Like, it makes it even more disturbing that the states, I mean, and this is like a whole new enemy, right? Now we're looking at the cartels, and we're like, really? Like, it's not enough to worry about. We got the WEF out there. We've got China breathing down our necks, colluding with Russia and the BRICS countries. And, we've got our own president, subverting the Constitution and trying to, and just trying to sell this nation down a path of destruction. And now we got the cartels to deal with. Like, it's one thing when the cartels were a player in getting people over the border and all that, but to have them actually infiltrate multiple states with massive money laundering schemes that get into the billions, is just insane. And what we can hope for now, like I said, I don't know who's going to prosecute this, because it's almost like everybody's in the tank. It's literally almost like everybody's in the, like, who do you bring? Supreme Court. 25% of the courts, 25% of their courts, including the Supreme Court, are are in on the bribes. They have evidence that they've taken bribes, which they've presented today or a few days ago. I'm sorry, to this committee. So it's like, who hears the case? Who prosecutes it? Both prosecutors within these counties and for these counties have been identified as being as being linked to these laundering homes and these laundering operations. Like, who the heck, do you pull someone in from out of state? And even if you do, how do you know that, like, Iowa and a bunch of others were involved in this? That's where it started. How do you even know they're trustworthy? I mean, we truly are living in a time where, we're getting to a place. I mean, nobody trusts the FBI. Nobody trusts the FBI. I don't even think lower level agents of the FBI necessarily trust the FBI. I mean, nobody trusts this organ. They've lost all credibility. And frankly, with all of this going on, like, I honestly believe the FBI should be shut. I heard Mark Meckler say this after they continued to ignore various things, and I'm just like, honestly, the fact that every time something breaks, it's by the citizenry. It's not by an agency that we're paying to catch this stuff. Like, the FBI hasn't caught anything in forever. And then what do we got? Autistic Berserker, our anarchist, is here. Outstanding. I forget what that is. Hold on. He's making a comment here, and I forget what it is. Oh, all right. So he said, so he's, I guess, not a guy who's for the blue, and he's saying a Cobb includes FBI. I think a Cobb is focused on FBI. As far as the regular boys in blue, I'm focused. I support blue almost 100%. I'll be honest. I said this the other day. The one area that concerned me was during the pandemic. There were a lot of people, a lot of police officers who were willing to take orders to get, to arrest citizenry, in my opinion, unconstitutionally, under the guise that they're taking orders, for menial things like not wearing a mask and things like I was not comfortable with that. I was not. I watched videos of New York City police dragging citizens out of restaurants and like slamming them on the ground over, of all colors, not a race thing. Just, it was the mask. And the fact that they were okay doing that because they were taking orders, like, I don't know how many of those types of cops are out there, but I like to think of my own sheriff here in California, in Riverside, California, where he was, when they did this whole thing, he came out with a Facebook video saying, they're not using me as their muscle. They're not using me as their muscle. We won't be enforcing any of this stuff. And like, that's what I expect from the blue. That's the type of behavior I expect from the police force when they're asked to do things that are clear violations of citizens' rights. And when I see them do things like that, enforce those laws because they were given an order, that concerns me. And I'm hoping, there were an awful lot of them involved. I mean, at each one of these sites, there might have been 10 or 15 officers. They were all in on it. They were all okay with what was going on during those scenes. And I wasn't, and these were not out of context videos. Like, these were long, whole what is this? Michael says, Rhode Island has a hearing on Wednesday in front of the House Committee on State Government and Elections. I plan on being there to show my support. Outstanding, Mike. Rhode Island is definitely going to be a tough nut to crack, but I am excited to hear more movement. So we'll be keeping our eyes on Rhode Island as well, because you never know. We've been getting bipartisan support in many of these legislatures. So it's not, and I think the more, because it's got Democrat voter support. And that's the key, right? It's got Democrat voter support. And as long as that's the case, I think that it can be effective. I think that we can get these people on board and able to, and able to work with us. I mean, term limits, fiscal restraints, and government overreach of authority. I'm still waiting for the person who disagrees. I mean, I've heard people say, oh, well, term limits, elections are term limits. Well, this isn't just for elected officials, this is for everyone. And we haven't seen, I still haven't seen anyone give me an answer to who elected in the deep state, because no, as far as I know, nobody did. Right. So, and it's not even like the top guys, like the CIA directors and these people, it's the guy right beneath them. It's the one right beneath them, because even those guys are appointed at the top. It's the person right beneath them that doesn't go away, that stays there forever, and where most of the dirty crap that they do comes from, right? And so, there's nothing I would love to see more than the dismantling of the military industrial complex. There's nothing that I would love to see more than that. And this helps. This doesn't do it, but it helps. Getting those people out is a big blow. That's us playing offense, right? That's us playing offense, and offense matters, right? Let me just pull my. All right, perfect. So, all right. So just to recap, we've got, and guys, you can pull that full video from the intro that I did. Like don't worry, you can find that. I clipped it down to 5 minutes. She goes on for 40 minutes. All right. I just used it for my ticker, just to allow some people to get on. But that thing goes on for 40 minutes. And I'm telling you, it's 40 minutes of eyes glued to the TV, like, holy smokes, she said what? Like, like, it's wild, the accusations that she brings in that hearing, and the documentation that she apparently has to back it up. And the fact that people have already been imprisoned and convicted, as a part of the money laundering that they have now traced into Arizona, and are now demonstrating that people involved in this were elected officials, judges, prosecutors, particular experts used in the courts, that they're using uploaded documents with full access to take someone and swat them, right? So, in other words, you figure this out, you see the racketeering, you want to say something, all of a sudden you get charges brought against you for some nonsense that you didn't commit. Well, you're prosecuted by a prosecutor who's on the take. You're judged by a judge who's also on the take, and heck, your defense attorney, if he's a public defender, might be on the take. But even if he's not, what does it matter? The prosecutor and the judge are on the take. So then you end up getting locked up, punished, whatever, for something you didn't even do, that was falsely uploaded into the court system as far as evidence or whatever. It's maddening. It's crazy, crazy stuff. But, like, I just sit here and I'm like, I don't know. I'm flabbergasted by it. I'm surprised there aren't more comments on it. Autistic Berserker says cops follow orders no matter what. Not all of them. Like I said, right here in Riverside, he came right out and said, I ain't following any of this. He allowed a business. There was a restaurant that opened up, the Pancake House over here. And I went in there, sat down with my daughter. The news was there and everything. But he was like, we're not bothering him. He's like, if the state wants to come in, I can't stop him. But I ain't going in there. He's like, my manpower is not being used to harass an innocent business. And so they're out there. And for the most part, it's sheriffs who stand up to this stuff, to all these attacks on the Second Amendment. I mean, Colorado, they passed gun legislation that were attacking the Second Amendment, and multiple sheriffs, almost all of them, were like, well, we're not enforcing that. It's unconstitutional, and we're not enforcing that. You'd be surprised how much power sheriffs have, because they too are elected officials. They have an oath to upkeep, and there's a lot that they can say no to. So now New York City is a different animal. I don't know that they operate with a sheriff, but it is what it is. And then and now he's saying, look, yeah, no, it's not for show. Okay, I live here, and I'm telling you, the orders came down from Newsom, and they were not followed. So, and they were ignored by just about everybody. In LA, there were stories of people being harassed over it. In San Francisco, there were stories of people being harassed for it. In Riverside County, which is an enormous swath of land, nobody was harassed for it. It was just simply a non-issue. It's simply a non-issue. And then Mike Arnold says the sheriff is the highest elected law enforcement official in the nation. Yeah, yeah, sheriff is as high as it gets. So I don't know how New York's system works. Um, so in that sense, as far as New York is concerned, I don't know if they have a sheriff now that I'm thinking about it. I always growing up, I knew my local precinct. I know there's the police captain, the city captain. I don't know how the sheriff thing works because it's boroughs, not counties per se, and it's a little bit weird in that way. Maybe somebody knows. Maybe some of my East Coast folks are on that could break that down and maybe give me a little education. I only knew the 106th precinct. I knew them unfortunately too well. I wasn't. I was a bit of a punk when I was growing up, but fortunately, I I grew up, as many people do, and you get to that point where you realize that it's just not fruitful to continue down that path. So, one last thing that they were doing in Maricopa that I wanted to touch on was the issuing of fake licenses. So, imagine imagine the depth of this scheme. So, you've got, you're the cartel. You're laundering money through these houses. So you're basically you're licensing a fake real estate agent. You're licensing a fake mortgage broker. Although they did say Wells Fargo had employees who were fully in. They were legitimate employees who were fully in on the take. I don't know if those employees were a part of those that were arrested and convicted, or if they're new and they're about to be arrested and convicted. But I can tell you, so you're the cartel. You infiltrate the universities, create fake licenses, infiltrate the state, create fake licenses. For real estate agents, mortgage brokers, whatever it may be, title companies were involved, and you've got all of these fake licenses that you've given to criminals who now will fill out all the necessary paperwork for a fake home that now gets a fake property assessment and then gets purchased with real money for something that doesn't exist. I mean, it's the one good thing for us about all this is that it is all 100% traceable. And I don't know that the cartels, you know, look, these are not, they're worth a lot of money, but they're not exactly scholars when it comes to how all these things work. And in the end, a money laundering scheme, no matter how it's conceived, is traceable. Like once the dogs get the scent, it's the trail will lead them to anybody who's touched anything remotely involved with it. And I would very much love to see, the high level sting that we're about to undergo. I hope that we're about to undergo. I mean, if this goes through I mean, they're saying that this money laundering was tied directly to elections. So at that point, if they blow this off and pretend like nothing happened, or like they make a big show about it, and then 6 months from now we haven't heard anything, right? Which is kind of how the whole mules thing went down, right? Where they made a big deal, and then they arrested one person, and I don't even think they're still in jail, and that's it. I haven't heard anything else about that. Have you? And no one took that information and launched an investigation that I know of. Unless they're doing something super secret that I missed. But as far as I know, all the COVID emergency protocols for that change the gravity of our elections are still in place. Drop boxes are still everywhere. Mail-in votes are completely, just thrown out there to everybody on their completely outdated list, and all of those things went on despite that documentary. So I don't know, I can't say that I'm overly optimistic. The one thing that makes me optimistic is that Carrie Lake is involved. Because she ain't gonna let this go to bed. Like, she ain't gonna let this go. And I think that that's a big deal. I think the fact that Carrie Lake is involved in this, I think that's the reason the connection was made. I think the woman that testified here, she was very much, adamant about testifying and getting that information out. But I don't think that they on their own would have connected their investigation to Arizona. They were asked to see if any of the dealings with those who had been convicted involved Arizona. And then that opened up the entire, that knocked the whole house of cards down. And so, but now that it's down, you know, does Arizona just sweep this under the rug? Or, I mean, really, there should be federal charges as well on these people, because these were federal elections they were messing with as well. And that won't happen, right? We know that won't happen. The FBI is not doing anything. Let's just all come to a quick agreement on that, right? The FBI is looking at, they're going to download all these documents that she sends them and put them on Hunter Biden's laptop and throw it in that safe that they haven't opened since they received that laptop, right? So I don't think anyone has faith that the FBI is going to do something. And if they do, it'll likely be to subvert evidence or cause some problem in this process. And this is how far our institutions have fallen. Like the amount of scandal that needs to get unraveled between the cartels, China, WEF, it's mind blowing. And so in the end, it's why I like to promote Article 5. Even though I know we've got legislators out there who know nothing about constitutional history at this moment when it comes to the subject of Article 5, that doesn't mean we can't educate them. And in the end, it is the only solution that we have to start the process of fixing the problems. The grandiose, they're so big, these problems, you start to think we can't fix them, right? They're so big that you think, like $31 trillion deficit, debt. How on earth, like, where do you even begin, right? You begin with a balanced budget amendment. That's where you begin. Because what people think, and this is a part of the apathy that goes on when it comes to Article 5, is that people think, well, the government's not following the Constitution now. What makes you think they'll follow it if we amend it? Well, and I try to bring this up as much as possible. They do follow the Constitution now. The problem that, and most people don't even know this, is that they're following a different Constitution than the one you keep in your pocket. And it's not different in the sense of what it says. It's different in a sense of what's in it, because it's the annotated version that includes all the Supreme Court decisions. It wasn't the founders that gave the federal government all of this expanded power. It was the court. And there is a process to overturn the Supreme Court, but that process has to come directly from the people. There's no president. There's no Congress. There's no one that's going to overturn the Supreme Court except for a constitutional amendment. So if the courts, as they have done, continually misinterpret the Constitution with things like the Commerce Clause, among a variety. I mean, the list is long but the commerce. Let's just stay on the Commerce Clause for a second. I mean, that opened up a can of worms that pretty much allowed the federal government to do whatever it wants when it comes to commerce virtually anywhere. And that's just, you can end that quickly with a constitutional amendment. Like whatever doo-doo thought process they had, okay, whatever it was when they opened up that wide, it's like taxation. Like they like laughingly talk about, well, we've always said the government has, wide range of authority to tax. Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And in the end, but now it does, because you said so. And like, things like balancing budgets, like this stuff needs to be written into the Constitution, right? I mean, there's a ton of stuff under fiscal restraints that I would like to see, but there are other things, especially with respect of overreach, single subject amendment, right? Like no more of these omnibus bills. Like no more using veterans as tools to try and get what you want by writing a bill that's titled to help veterans and then tack on 400 things. Both parties do this, tack on 400 things on the bottom edge of the bill that the other side can't agree with, because you never really intended to pass the bill anyway. The only thing you intended was to have a talking point and say the other side doesn't want to help veterans. Like that's my biggest beef. But that being said, I would add to that a bill should not be more than 10 pages long. Get your point across, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Like legislation needs to be understood. If people can't, these bills get passed. Dodd-Frank, I just started going through it because I was looking at that bail-in nonsense, and upon doing so, I'm reading it and I'm just like, no wonder nobody read this bill. It's 1,600 pages or so, some absurd number of pages. And it's written in the most complicated legalese that you will ever see. Like constantly referencing subsections of other legislation that's 1,600 pages. And you can't get through it. And the reality of the matter is our elected officials have been voting on stuff without reading it for decades. For decades. And we either don't know or we're okay with it. Right? So these are major, like just saying that there's a single subject amendment, like there's no way to get around that. If there's anything in that bill on an off topic from what the title subject is, it's not valid. It's very simple. And amendments should be worded very simple, very broad, very easy to understand. Very little. You can't leave room for interpretation because these dootadoos will take it and interpret it into something that it was never intended to be. And that's just real talk. So, guys, I'd like to see more comments coming out of Facebook. I'm a little shocked that normally Facebook is the one that's flowing with the comments. And today, I'm not getting that. Although the viewership on Facebook, we've been on for an hour now, and the viewership tends to slow down after that. But like YouTube, I expect low viewership. Facebook, I expect more. So Berserker says all of them, not just the ones that Fox News wants you to hate. All billionaires are evil. All billionaires are not evil. I don't buy that. I don't buy that all anything are evil. Frankly, there's not a lot of billionaires anyway, and most of them are self-made. Most of them did not inherit money or anything like that. Like the fact is, money brings power, but it doesn't bring the kind of power that is really doing damage to this country right now. The reality of the matter is, and I say this all the time, and I get into it with conservatives about this too, where they think these billionaires and these corporations are like controlling the politicians. Like, I got 3 letters for the people who think that way. ESG, okay? They're not imposing ESG on themselves. All right? That's just nonsense. Like, there's a difference between money and power. Even though money brings you some power, it doesn't bring you the kind of power. I was commenting to someone the other day about this difference, and I used Trump as the example, and because Trump would just come out with brutal honesty when faced with these questions, and he was questioned. I forget if it was a debate or if it was a town hall or interview or what it was, but they asked him, how could you fund, how do you claim to be a Republican now when you spent you spent years donating heavy sums of money to Hillary Clinton? And his answer was very simple. If you're going to build in New York City during that time, you must pay Hillary Clinton. and a variety of other senators, the Chuck Schumers and others who are in office. And I'm not saying that to pick on Democrats, because this kind of stuff goes on the Republican side too. It's just in his situation, he was in New York City, so they were Democrats. And his point was, and it was so fitting that he was running against Hillary when this happened, but his point was, if you don't pay her, if you don't give her her contributions and kiss the ring to some degree, your building project can take years when it should take months. It will get hung up in every freaking regulatory committee, environmental hazard, you name it. They will torture you, and you will lose more money than you gain. That you will lose more money just from the holdups than you will from just paying them. So they pay. Okay. And it's, it's very much the way I try to tell people to look at this, even though they can't wrap their heads around it, is the person taking the money, like think of mob racketeering, right? Where old school, where they just show up at the business, they collect their money and they go, right? And the business is paying for protection from them, right? So so who's in power here? Is it the business who's paying the money, or is it the person making them pay? And that's the best analogy I can think of. All right. But if these companies don't play ball, if they don't have a guy in Washington, if they're not dialed in to what donations need to be made where, and what favors need to get taken care of where, if they're not all over that stuff, the full power of the federal government will be brought to bear, or local governments in that sense, depending on what the situation is. But they will bring it all to bear, billionaire or no billionaire. Elon Musk's money isn't saving them. They're going after freaking Tesla. They're going after, why? Because of Twitter. Like, because he's not doing what he's told. And they're going to go after Tesla. They're going to, these ESG scores for Tesla, despite the massive amounts that Tesla does for the environment. All right. Despite that, they don't like the social and governance situation with Musk. So, which are completely subjective and will be used as a weapon on Musk and anybody else who gets out of line. These folks are they're walking a thin line. And believe me, I guarantee you, to be a fly on the wall in private conversations, every one of them would very much rather just have the government the hell out of their business and agree. They'd sign the paperwork tomorrow to not ever pay another politician again. And frankly, we can put that paperwork in front of them if we friggin' go ahead and repeal the 16th Amendment during the fiscal restraint session of the Convention of States. Because without income tax, there's no IRS. Without this wild tax code, there's no writing loopholes. Okay, and that's how the payment gets done. All right, they donate to the campaign, or they behave in a way that the government wants them to behave. They censor speech the way the government wants them to censor speech. They just be the good lapdog, and those loopholes will keep coming. And then, to insult us all, those same politicians will get on a podium and run on a platform of eliminating loopholes. That whole concept is a gaslighting operation that's just next level. And Republicans think that their guy is going to close those loopholes. And the Democrats think their guy is going to close those loopholes. And in the end, they're all signing the same bill with the loopholes, because they're all in this two wings, one bird. Myrn representing in Jersey. How are you, Myrn? I have not seen you in a while. It is good that you are here. I am glad that you were able to catch us live as well. We were going over the insane Katie Hobbs situation and all of the madness that came with it. With the bribery, the list of people that they bribed was just absolutely astronomical. I'm just blown away by the list of people. Like, I don't understand how this has to get discovered on Twitter. Like, that's, thank God, because if it wasn't for Musk, he wouldn't. This would have been shut off from Twitter in a cocaine heartbeat. This would have been taken down from Twitter. Those guys would have been like, some 20-year-old doo would have been pushing that button over and over, restricting killing people's accounts, banning people, whatever. It would have been crazy. Just like they were banning people's accounts for the Wuhan lab leak, which we were all saying, we all knew that was the situation in the early days. Epic Times was reporting it a month after the whole thing started in April 2020. And just now, on February 27th, so we're almost at March now. So we're looking at 3 years after the government has finally admitted that it was it was a leak from the Wuhan lab. And now I'm waiting to see, because so far everything the quote unquote conspiracy theorists were telling us seems to have come true. Well, not everything. I believe I saw one saying JFK Jr. was going to come back from the future. But the majority on all the key issues, some of the Q people went a little wild, but aside from them, all the fairly sane, people who were saying things that were accused of being conspiracy theorists, they've been right about almost everything, and the federal officials have been wrong about just about everything. And it's not even that they were wrong; it's that they knew better and they actively gave bad information. They just knew better, right? And so conspiracy theorists now has taken on the meaning of someone who has an uncanny ability to look at present events and predict the future. Whereas, these government experts are somewhat maddening. I remember people 2 weeks in, when it first started, and I was all into it too. There was even in the very beginning, I saw Fauci come in. It's embarrassing to even say, but when I first, like the first days of it, where like my job just said, gave us the announcement, you got to stay home, and everybody was glued to the TV trying to figure out what's going on. And I see Fauci come up. I'm like, oh, that's the guy from back in the days with AIDS and stuff. I'm like, all right, he's still around. We're good. And then, ironically, Fauci was the one who really first sent me down the rabbit holes that I've gone down since, and really, began the process of me changing the way that I looked at absolutely everyone. Before, I looked at certain people skeptically, after I look at everyone skeptically now. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust Trump. I don't trust freaking Democrats, Republicans. I don't trust anybody. It is listen to and verify. That is the process from here on in. But that being said, I do listen to just about every conspiracy. I'll listen to it once. I'll listen to it one time. And if I feel that there's something there that might have teeth, right? I don't believe any of them the first time I hear them. And frankly, if it's brought out without any citable source, I generally blow it off from the start. But if it's brought up with citable sources, I'll go look at the sources. I'll take a trip down that road, even though a lot of times I come back saying, I'm not buying it. Stu Peters is a big one like that. He comes out with these outlandish stories, and like they're just like so off the hook, and you're just there's no way to ever validate it. He brings on Dr. Doo from wherever, and they come on and they got their white coat on and they're telling you all this crazy stuff. You're like, really? Is this really happening? And then you start really, most people don't do what I do because I have the channel now. And even though I'm not full time yet, I mean, I'd love to be someday, but right now I don't have the, without it paying me, I don't have the time to put in. I got to still support a family. So, but I do take a lot more time out of my life now to look into things and investigate things. And anytime I watch one of these things, and it throws me for a bit, I look into it. And I will say that it's probably 50-50 at this point, the things that have merit and the things that don't. But there are some pretty wild things that have merit. Like Bill Gates's freaking patent, that 060606 patent or whatever, like that's 100% real. That dude patented something that is supposed to read you while you work. There's a device that would be like on the work site, the way it's designed to work. And then as you're working, let's say you're in construction, I'm sitting there, I'm swinging a hammer. It's tracking my bodily activity as to how hard I'm working. And then my pay is automatically calculated as a result. He patented this. Now, there was some dispute over what's creepy is there was a dispute with another company who also was trying to patent this. So it's insane, but it's true. Like that is a real, the patent, the patent is available for reading. So it's pretty wild, how that works. Danny Mayer Jr. over at Facebook. What do you think happens when emergency for pandemic is declared and the WHO takes charge? That won't happen, Danny. So every year we go through this, this ritual of the WHO. Biden's going to sign a treaty that's going to give the WHO power over the U.S. But then if you haven't noticed, every year, right at the bell, right when they're about to do something and sign it, something changes and it doesn't get signed. And whew, we escaped for another year. Well, we escaped for another year because it was never really a threat in the first place. Even if these documents were there and were signed by the president, it's not a treaty. So like the idea that they can call that a treaty, there's no treaty there. So you can't just name it a treaty and then it becomes constitutional. And everybody involved knows this. So that's the kind of thing that as soon as people start with the civil disobedience, and it'd probably start with our sheriffs around the country, it's dead. These are things, this is the type of stuff that I'm saying when I mention Stu Peters. Okay. This is exactly the type of stuff. It's designed to get like that whole WHO thing is an annual ritual for clicks. That's what that 100%. I believe that 100%. It's an annual ritual for clicks. All right. And it goes on. This is the third year that people are, I'm done. I'm done with it. Now, does that mean there won't be another pandemic emergency type deal? No, there will be. Look, there's going to be emergency measures that are around three topics. And I can tell you, I've been telling you what those topics are. Those topics are energy, food supply, and currency. Period. There's going to be crises in all three. And how the crisis is going to go down, when it's going to hit. Like, they don't let me into the Davos meetings, right? I'm not into the high level UN meetings. But it's clear from listening to what they tell us that these are the three things that they intend to control. It's clear. Like, it's not even debatable that these are the three things they intend to control. And it's 100% sure, based on everything we know from history, that it's going to get done through emergency measures, which requires some sort of crisis. So what are we doing right now? We're creating crisis. We've got, well, we're not, but they are, right? I mean, the Russia-Ukraine war. Does anyone aside from these do anchors on these media shows, does anyone on earth still believe that there's anything about that war that doesn't affect those three issues? All right? Because that's 100% what it's about. 100%. If they want to end it, they don't have to friggin' give in to Putin. They just have to say something will be true that no one cares about anyway, and that Ukraine is not going to be a part of NATO. That's it. War over. Everyone pack your bags and go home. That's what this whole thing is about. It's not about world dominance for Putin. He's not a good guy, but in fact, there are no good guys in that whole conflict. And the reason that we're in there is because the fertilizer, right? So you've got two countries who make up almost all the world's fertilizer exports. You've got they're from that's for the food supply piece of it, right? You've got the currency situation, as the whole sanctions piece is now bringing China, Russia, and the BRICS countries into the mass purchase of gold to protect themselves from sanctions, and frankly, which is devaluing our dollar, right? So you've got that enemy of my enemy is my friend deal going on between the WEF and China, right? Let's bring that U.S. currency down. And so there's your financial crisis, and there's more. And then the spending, of course, the senseless spending despite inflation, right? These things, it's not like someone sitting up there who just has bad policy. They don't believe that they know that sending this money to Ukraine is going to hurt us. They know that this war in Ukraine is going to hurt us. They don't like you. Like I don't know how else to get this across to people. They don't like you. And that's what it comes down to. So when we're dealing with the financial crisis, they've got the food crisis, and then what's left? The energy crisis, right? So the importance of Russia to Europe when it comes to energy is unbelievable. And poof, it affects that too, right? And of course, what does the United States do just to make sure we get weakened in this whole process too? Is that we start giving away the reserves that Trump bought for like pennies on the dollar when oil was way down. We start giving those reserves away. This is a calculated effort to create crises in those three areas. I mean, that's just the real on it. It says that is too creepy, takes away from trust of the people. Yeah, you shouldn't look, and that's a good point. But you know what I'm going to say? We shouldn't be trusting anyone anyway. Like, frankly, the entire nation was founded on a severe lack of trust of the government. Like, it should be in our DNA. All right, it should be embedded in our DNA to not trust the government. The first reaction should always be on the side of I don't trust you. No matter what they're doing, it should be I don't trust you. But we've gotten away from that and we've started trusting these institutions, and all we've done essentially is to bring about the reason why the founders didn't trust the government. That's all we've done, is we've just demonstrated what they already knew and tried to instill in this nation from the very beginning. The reason Article 5 exists is because we're born to not trust the government. That's why the second clause of Article 5 even exists, because it's in our DNA to give ourselves an out if the government gets out of control. It's in our DNA. It's just, people have been socialized out of their instincts. And we need to bring that back. We need to bring that back. Let me see some comments here. Danny Mayer, hope you're right. That's in reference to the World Health Organization treaty thing. Yeah, I am right. Trust me when I tell you, Danny. There's no way. I mean, even if 1 year it did happen, like even if they tried to get that through, it would get shot down in the courts overnight, because they're trying to play the idea that it's a treaty because the president has the ability to obligate the U.S. to treaties. They're trying to pretend this thing is a treaty, and it's not. There's nothing that the president doesn't have the authority to give away authority to another nation or outside entity that's not beholden to our Constitution. There's no legal authority for him to do that. I guarantee you there will be these doo-doo professors that they pull out of the woodwork to be like, well, actually, I'm a scholar and I can tell you that there is a blah, blah, blah. You could. They'll go through all that, but there ain't no way that's getting through. There's just no way. It's a junk argument. But because people are scared, like these channels, it bothers me that they do it. Notice you don't see that stuff on like Dan Bongino and like, what's his name? Come on, biggest pot, Joe Rogan. And maybe Rogan might have addressed it once or twice, but like they don't focus on this kind of stuff. If that stuff was serious, everybody would be all over this. Like it's not like they censor, like Fox News does censor stuff. I get that, but like everybody wouldn't drop that. And that's what first put me on to Stu Peters as being a bit shady. I'm like, there's no way you're breaking all these, oh my God, clickbait stories and nobody has picked up on it. And it became clear to me that nobody picks up on it because they do what I do. They go and try and validate it and they can't. And he did some elaborate, this was the final straw for me. This is when I unsubscribed and walked away. He did some documentary that was like connecting COVID to, snake venom, and then because the snake is demonic, and this is a religious thing, and I don't disagree that there could be an element of religious evil involved in this, like as far as satanic stuff, but like it's not that. Like it's not literally in snake, like snake venom is like it's you got to go down so many freaking wackadoo sites to validate something like that, that it's just no way that I'm going down that road. So autistic berserker, and for everyone's reference, because I don't get many anarchists on here, but I do give them play. So we got autistic berserker on YouTube. It says that's one difference between leftists and fascists. Leftists hate all billionaires, including Bill Gates and Soros. Right wing hates some that they are told to hate, but worship others like Trump and Musk. Yeah, I totally disagree. I don't worship anybody, and most on the right don't. You do get some worshiping Trump. There is a small sect of his supporters who do engage in what can only be described as worship. But for the most part, um, that's just simply not true. And that's an incredible misunderstanding of what being a conservative is. Conservatives don't like Republicans. Okay. Even though you say, oh, well, you vote for Republicans. Yeah, well, there's only one or the other, and we really don't like Marxists. So we hate Marxists, but we don't like Republicans. Okay. So when in the end, yeah, we'll do just about anything to keep a Marxist out of office. And we're seeing what you get with that right now. And so, yeah, as far as billionaires are concerned, conservatives are just like leave people alone. Like if a billionaire commits a crime, arrest him. If he hasn't committed a crime, get off his back. If he doesn't pay taxes, get mad at your politicians, not at him. If you didn't have to pay taxes, you wouldn't pay him either. If somebody, if the Congress was writing in tax code that fit your life and set it up so you never had to pay taxes, if you think that you're going to sit there and be like, well, I think I make enough money, I'm going to go ahead and donate this to the government. Why on earth would you do that? Why on earth would you do that? These companies that don't pay taxes aren't paying them because they don't have to. They don't have to because politicians have told them they don't have to, because they donate to politicians, period. And they get a good return on their investment. It's not an exchange that they initiated, but it's one that they have to do. So yes, I will donate $10 million to your campaign through 250 fall organizations. And yes, I will take that 20 million in taxpayer money in tax breaks that come with it. That's how politicians use our money. It's laundering. I mean, that's what it is. It's laundering. I mean, from the billionaire's perspective, it's investing. But like from the politician's perspective, it's laundering. The only one breaking the law in that process is the politician. And technically, unless we abolish the 16th Amendment, they're not even breaking the law. So it is what it is. Did you see Vivek running 2024 and supports cause? I did not see that, but that is awesome. That is awesome. We need all the support we can get. Wyoming's got me a little torn up today, but frankly, I didn't really expect Wyoming coming into this. A lot of these states I didn't really expect coming into this. So like if New Hampshire bails, that would bother me. But Wyoming, there's progress there. It's moving, right? It's moving. Like Montana, progress there, right? One vote away, it's moving. It's moving. There's Democrats even voting for it. Like it's a nonpartisan situation. Even though it's a majority of Republicans that end up supporting this stuff, there are Democrats on board. And from a voter perspective, and I pointed out all the time, that the stats that came out were 50.2% of Democrats support. And that was down a little bit from like 52% the last time, but 24%, which is up a little bit from last time, are not sure. They're not sure. So that's 74% of even Democrats who are not opposed to convention of states. And I think that that's just awesome. I think that's just awesome. Guys on Rumble, like I see you out there, you can comment. I got your chat box open. I will respond to your comments. If you comment to the right of the video screen, I know some people I think Rumble leaves the bottom comments open as well. If you chat to the right in the live chat box, I will get to your comments, and I can't put them on screen because Rumble doesn't integrate, but I will open them up to everybody. And then give me one sec, folks. I gotta. All right, my dog was in here with me, and he was trying to get out, so I had to free him. I kept him on here over an hour, so I want to make sure that I gave him that love. But Rumble, folks, I love you guys. I see we got about was it 10 or 15 on Rumble right now. So, but to get back on that, like, where was I now? Now I lost my train. Oh yeah, we had the support. So good to see him supporting, and I'm fired up about it. I think the progress that we're making is definite. It's slower than I'd like to see, right? Because I want to see, like, I feel like if you're a legislator, the only way that you could support something, the only way you could be against convention, calling a convention of states, and get down with the program of insulting the integrity of the founders, and carrying on this narrative that the original constitutional convention, which this is not, it's a convention for proposing amendments, but the original constitutional convention somehow was rogue, and that the founders, went beyond their jurisdiction. It's just nonsense. It's just not how it went down. And for you to take that type of stance and really, really insult the core. You can't be a constitutionalist and act like the Constitution was illegally written. Like, you can't be both of them. It's like saying, oh, well, I'm Christian, but I'm pro-abortion. Like, you can't be those two things. You can be one or the other, but you can't be both. And all it takes is reading, and that's what disturbs me. Is like, at this point, like, for this issue to come to the table for them, and for them to just go with the fear tactics. And if all the uses of fear tactics in today's society, to not understand that a fear tactic is being used, like, there's just a point where I expect more from you guys. Like that, I'm talking to state legislatures around the country. Like I ain't gonna hate on you because I get it, but like, in the end, like, I expect more. I expect more. I expect you to take something like this serious enough to read a freaking book, to look at, to read Federalist Papers, to go down the. There are people around you who are handing you this information, and you're denying to read it, and it bothers me that that's the case. Like, you're so scared you don't want to look at the other side of the argument, because there's no way you look at the other side of the argument and are still scared. There's just no way. There's no way. So Danny says they don't care about following the Constitution. They are way out of bounds. Yeah, I cover this all the time. They do follow the Constitution. Like, for those saying that we're not following the Constitution, we are. All right. The Constitution gets followed as interpreted by the Supreme Court of the United States. We all hate the 3,000-page annotated version of the Constitution, but in fact, it has a purpose. Like, the Supreme Court is meaningful. And even though they've dropped decision after decision over the last century or so that have expanded continually the powers of the federal government, it still matters. There's still rulings. And there's only one way to undo those rulings, and that's through constitutional amendment. Like that, there's a process, folks. That's my whole point, is there's a process. But to undo those rulings through constitutional amendment, well, you can't. Congress isn't going to propose amendments for that. They're just not. So for those opposing, it's like what you're saying is, I'm so scared. I'm so scared that I'd rather just sit back and watch it all fade away. Like, that's what we're saying. That I'm so afraid. John Birch Society, George Soros, the rest of these coconuts, they got me so scared that I would rather just sit back and watch it all fade away. And that's just lunacy to me. That's just lunacy to me. Like, I just can't. So Wild Stallion over at YouTube, how are you, Wild? I disagree strongly with the Wyoming cause opponents who claim Constitution is not broken. Rather, it's just not enforced. 16A and 17A make it very broken. Yeah, no, that's right there with the comments that people make regarding, this perfect document they talk about. And it's like, at what point was the Constitution perfect? Like that's what I want to know. At what point? Because right from its inception, it was not perfect, right? It's acknowledged by everybody that this is the American experience is an experiment in liberty. And it's been a very successful one, though it's needed changes throughout, right? Heck, we had an entire civil war that shed blood, brother versus brother over the slavery issue, which the initial Constitution allowed. It required amendments to make that progress, and we did. And we've made tons of other progress along the way, but we've also made a lot of mistakes. You point out two of them. 16th and 17th Amendments are very, very, very much break the Constitution. 16th Amendment, for those that are not aware, is income tax. All right. After decades of trying to impose an income tax and never being able to get it ruled in favor by the courts, they allowed it for the Civil War because there was no other way to fund it. And as soon as the war ended, that went away. There were attempts at it, but the courts kept shooting it down because it's unconstitutional. So how did the left go about going past the courts? A constitutional amendment. 17th Amendment. What is that? That's where they stole power from the states and made senators directly electable by the people. Why is that less freedom than more? Because in the past, if you elected a senator and he went in for 6 years, well, if in 3 years you're a Republican and he's Mitt Romney, you could petition your local legislature to pull that guy. All right? The states are sovereign. But they took that power away. What does that do? It creates more severance between federal and state government and pulls more power away from the local government, which pulls more power from you. Even though it sounds really nice that we directly elect them, blah, blah, blah. The guy you want to have influence over is the guy that 1,000 votes could crush. That's the guy you want to have influence over. And let that guy have influence over the guy that now it takes 1 million votes to crush. You follow me? So I would love to see them. I don't know if they will. I would love to see them overturn that, but that may require another convention, and we'll see how that goes. But thanks for commenting. Brenda, over in Facebook, I agree with you. Don't trust a double-minded person. Yeah, you can't trust people who are thinking for two sides. It's just there's nothing good that comes of that. It's like the John Birch Society in their early history fighting for a convention of states, and now suddenly, after their own founder's wife wants nothing to do with them because they're a shell of themselves from a belief standpoint, they've made this 180, and I know that they've sold their souls. I know that they have. People need to meet their legislators and educate them. We need to be heard. Yeah. And again, this is the big focus, right, guys? It's about your state legislature. That's where it is. Like when you leave here, I want you to go to the patriotthinktank.com/COS. All right. Or you can just go to the webpage and click on cause and sign the petition and get yourself up to speed. And if the only person you've ever heard about Article 5 from is me, then go and take this. Go to Cause University. It's a series of videos and things of that nature. And then go to John Birch Society stuff. Maybe watch some of the tutorial videos I've done as well. But watch the John Birch Society stuff. Watch it and research it like you would research anything else. I feel like the people who follow this channel or will even tune into it are the research type, right? And if you're the research type, listen to what John Birch is saying. And when they quote a founder, look up that quote. Look up the original context of that quote and see if it matches what they're saying. Like for Federalist Paper 40, that's a popular one. They quote it all the time. Read the whole Federalist Paper. It completely destroys the argument that they're trying to make, and they use that as a quote, that if you don't know any better, you'll think it was right. I mean, I heard this Publius Holder chick. She turns around this doo-doo. She's like, oh, George Mason said he'd rather cut off his hand than sign the Constitution. Yeah, because there was no Bill of Rights, you doo-doo. She left that part out, though. But that's the kind of trickery and debauchery that they do, right? But it's just, I'm good that we're on, that we're all about cause right now, because I need to get this Wyoming thing off my chest. We got to pull out a win here real quick, and we got a lot on the table right now as far as small wins. Any one of them could pop at any time, so I just need one of them to pop. So, but they keep trying to take our first and second away. Yeah, they can keep trying, but they keep failing. Look, the Constitution's been battered, but it hasn't been broken, right? And that's the thing. It's they could try and attack the Constitution, but they fail. Second Amendment, these California and New York Second Amendment laws are getting shot down by the dozen. Even California's shooting them down. I mean, the 10 round magazine, it was a San Diego court that shot that down. That's eventually going to make its way up to the Supreme Court, and when it does, they're going to shoot it down. And I get it; it's an ongoing battle, but they've been unable to do anything on a federal level. You can't fight if your state is acting up. You got to handle that within your state. You got to handle it in your state, because ain't nobody in Texas give a damn that people in California can only have 10-round magazines. They just don't care, because they can have them. So they could have bigger ones, so they don't care. Yes, and that's right, man. We are not a perfect people, and look, everybody's got room to grow, and it kind of is what it is. And Danny's saying New Mexico is bought and paid for by the deep state. You can make that argument for a lot of places. Look, it's the local legislators are where we're talking. All right, not the governor. We're talking local The governor doesn't matter here. All right, he doesn't matter. And before we start saying everybody's bought out by the deep state, someone needs to go visit their legislator. Okay, visit them, and have first of all, educate yourself on Article 5 first. Okay, so you go in with knowledge, right? It's not going to help you if you go in and there's only one tactic, really, or series of tactics on one topic that JBS uses and George Soros and company use to try and hurt and create fear about convention of states. Understand what that argument is, because it's very easy to destroy, but you need to actually go through the process of learning to understand that. And once you do, you've heard those arguments and you know how to smash them to pieces. Look, I called Robert Brown out. I was going to bring him on the show, and he wouldn't come because he thinks I'm going to mute him. Like, for real? Like I'm friggin' Fox News or something? Like, whatever. But get with these legislators and then make the determination. Because I think what you're going to find is that they're average Joes, man. With the exception of New York and California, and really those are the only two that are out of, I think their legislatures are a little more, they're a little too big, I guess. But in the end, with those exceptions, most legislatures, especially even New Mexico, they're not huge. And these are not lifetime politicians. These are business owners, farmers, whatever, like employees. These are regular people. They're not they're not the same cloth. I mean, you may have one or two that are aspiring to federal government, but as a body, they're very reasonable people. And I listen to them talk all the time, and you constantly hear them saying, I had coffee with a constituent. I sit down and had breakfast with a constituent. I did this with a constituent. I got a letter from a constituent. And they're talking about these individual constituents on the House floor, on the Senate floor, like they're talking about them because they listened, right? And people have to look, guys. We can't not trust anybody forever. If we're at a point where we don't even trust ourselves, we don't even trust our local, then where are we? We're lost already then. And even in that case, let's call the freaking convention and see, like in the end, like even if we think we are, if it's already lost, why go down without a fight? Like, why go down, just watch it all fall apart? Why would we do that? Because that's what they're counting on. They're counting on us just yelling at each other about it all day, tweeting and making posts and doing stuff like that and just getting angry and playing defense all day long. As long as we're playing defense, it means they're playing offense. And I don't know about you guys, but you don't score. You're not going to win a game just playing defense. Your offense has to come on the field, right? You've got to score. No one won a game 0 to anything. So at some point, some blows need to be delivered, and this is the first serious blow, serious, effective, game-changing blow. It doesn't fix everything, but the change in relationship will fix everything. The fact that we could just call another one is a game changer. It changes the way the federal government looks at the people. It's like, stay in line or we're going to do this again. And the next time, here are the topics we're going to go in on. And trust me when I tell you, they will get in line. They get in line now in many cases when conventions have been threatened and do whatever it is the people are asking. Only this time they're not going to do that because they need to restrain their own power. So they're going to force us to get there. And frankly, if we get to 33 and they want to pass these amendments, I'm still going to say no. Because I want to see this process go through. Plain and simple. All right. So, yeah, look, Danny, form local stuff, buddy, right? That's what it is. Form local stuff. That's what it is. It's exactly what it's all about. Mern says primaries are coming up. Pick a good one to get in office. Yeah. And make convention of states an issue. Right? Cause Action has a great program of writing down handwritten letters and sending it to their representative. Why? Who doesn't read a handwritten letter? Everybody. If a handwritten letter shows up at your house today, you're going to read that, and you know it. If you go pick that up and you're like, is this handwritten? You're going to read it. Period. Because who the hell writes a handwritten letter these days? Someone to sit down and take the time to write a handwritten letter adds to the passion of what you're saying. That you didn't just take this as a fleeting exercise, type it up real quick and send it. You sat down, wrote it out, probably threw away a few copies and had to write it again because it was sloppy or whatever. But you took the time to put together a well-presented written letter. They'll read it. They'll read it. And ask for some time. Ask them for some time. That's what I would tell you, because it matters, right? And we look at what's going on in Arizona now. We spent the whole first half of the broadcast talking about that, and frankly, I've never. I mean, this is so next level from the standpoint of corruption. I mean, what did they list off? Local office holders, judges of the Supreme Court, county supervisors, city courts, judges, all on the bribe. Judges, assistants. So not even just the judges, their assistants, prosecutors within certain cities in Maricopa, prosecutors from Maricopa City, the peripheral legal specialists, so mental health care providers that were used as experts in the courts, also as a part of the racketeering extortion, like crazy. Politicians on the bribe, access to internal systems, able to upload documents to the county record and delete documents from it. Like, it's so pervasive and so infiltrating. It's just mind-blowing. And I went to go look up some videos to try and get some other people's takes on this. And frankly, there was not a lot of great stuff on it. There was just not a lot of great, at least those, maybe there's some I missed. I mean, I do work and it's not like I sat there for hours and hours looking for these videos, but like I went to all the go-tos that I normally will get a reaction from, and I didn't. So maybe they're still producing and it's coming up soon. It's possible too, but I don't know, I don't know. So, but Danny's saying same here in New Mexico. Look, it's the corruption that's gone on, right? Everybody knows something ain't right, right? And it's not just Arizona, right? All over the country, people just know things aren't right, right? Like here in Cali, They're allowed to change my district. I never know what freaking district I'm in because they're constantly changing it. Every election, I go to look up how my district did and find out that I'm in a new district. It's like they're going house by house and gerrymandering. It's like nuts, right? Like these things are madness. Like it should just be city by city, county by county, however it works. These districts being in these wackadoo freaking cutouts is nuts, right? But all of these kinds of things with elections, with just general corruption, with the border, and all of these things that we know things aren't right. But in the end, it's like, well, how much can we possibly bitch about it? At what point do we start swinging the Constitution at people? I can't, I get people who are like, well, this is moving too slow. Yeah, how many times did you go? And these people will live in like serious like battleground states right now for convention of states. And it's like, like if you're living in LA, like I get it, you're probably not getting a lot of love from your representative. You probably feel, but you can still contribute. You can still educate other people. You can still do, I mean, that's what I'm doing. Like my entire purpose at this point is to try and educate people about the solution. And it just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts in the head that friggin' people will sit there and complain. They'll be like in Kansas. They'll be living in Kansas. Or they'll be living in Wyoming. Or they'll be living in, one of these battleground states that we're in. And it's like they never signed up. They never volunteered for anything. They have no idea who their representative is. But then they're going to comment on Facebook, hey, this cost thing is going to take too long. Yeah, as long as you sit on your ass, it is. Right? It's like, what the hell? At what point? Like conservatives are just the worst activists as a whole. But that needs to change. That needs to change. Like the left is activated in full force with brainwashed doo-doo-doos all over the place. We're all speaking truth, and we can't get friggin' activated. You got brainwashed people running around yelling stuff that talking about men having babies and all this madness. They should use the women's room and all this craziness. We can't get activated to save the nation. It just drives me crazy. Mern's giving some advice: be a poll worker, watcher, challenger, get involved. Yeah, something, right? Do something, and the biggest thing that all of us can do. And I don't know how to, if you're one of the people who are scared, you got to get over it. Just use your common sense for a minute, especially those who research stuff. Use your common sense. You're researching common sense. Who uses fear tactics? Who uses them? We all know who uses them, and it ain't the good guys. Right? It ain't the good guys. The good guys ain't out there trying to scare people into believing what they're saying. The good guys are out there handing out facts, leading you to the proper place to do the reading, getting you the information you need from both sides. Because when you have the truth on your side, is what I tell people, listen to JBS. Listen to what they have to say. Objectively listen to it and then vet it. And then do the same thing with cause. I guarantee you will be a wholehearted supporter of a convention of states when that exercise is done. Everybody is. Literally everybody is. There's just no way, if you're vetting both sides, you're going to see the tactics. They're going to become obvious. You're going to look up the quotes that they're telling you, and you're going to see that they were taken completely out of context. I did a video about Antonin Scalia, and JBS put this video up trying to bash cause action because they pointed out that Scalia was an adamant supporter of Convention of States. So they found a clip of Scalia saying, whoa, I wouldn't call a convention. And they clipped that exactly thing out and made it sound, without knowing what he was asked or why he said it, they clipped that out and tried to debunk an hour-long debate of him absolutely going nuts about how much he wanted to see a convention. But they took, and then the irony of it all is they did the video. Go to my YouTube channel and just go in the search for the videos and type in Antonin Scalia, and you'll find it right away. It might even be right on the front. There's a Debunking the Runaway Convention series. It might be in there. But they went so far out of their way to take stuff out of context that I actually went out of my way to produce a video just to bang it up. And, all things Article 5, Kenneth Quinn's YouTube channel. Great YouTube channel. Robert Brown owes him $10,000 for that stupid challenge that he put out, that there are no founders that can be quoted that saying that they thought they were within their commission to write the Constitution the way they did. I mean, insanity that comes out of these people. And it will become evident to you once you start reading it. And then go check out the cause stuff and check out Nadelson's book. I forget the name of it now. I have it too. I own it. But it's, I don't know, something. If you look up Nadelson in Article 5, you'll find it. Anyway, yeah, Mern, a little bit. But also when I talk too long, because I've been on for almost 2 hours now, I got to get off in a couple of minutes. But when I get off, like when I talk for too long, my voice starts to get hoarse, and I start to that has some challenges there. I'm getting a little old. Yeah, that's a great idea, Mern. Is a convention of states barbecue. Invite locals and stuff like that. Get yourself involved. When you guys go and you sign up, okay? There's a button. If you look at my website, I have a link to all three right in a row. It's patriotthinktank.com/COS. And there's one button that'll take you to the petition, which as you're signing it, you can actually click the button there to volunteer. There's another link that goes straight to the volunteer, and there's another link next to that for Cause University. And all three of them you should be engaged in, right? All three of them you should be engaged in. But when you go and you volunteer, all right, they're going to reach out to you. Someone local to you is going to reach out to you, right? There's district captains all over the counties and cities. So you go ahead and just click that button. Someone's going to call you and get you in touch with the people in your area who are on fire. And maybe in your small district or in your area, there aren't that many people, right? Well, good. Now, let's get cracking. Let's get some people going, right? Maybe start an event, right? Start a barbecue. Get people involved, right? And get them to a place where they're up for getting educated and learning. And because how many people out there don't know that there's a solution? They just don't know that there's a solution. And as soon as they hear that there's one, they become skeptical. But when they learn about it and they realize it's a real solution, they become adamant. They become adamant. And that matters. Yes, Mern, like you. Like you and like me, right? They all start YouTube channels. Barbara on Facebook, thank you for what you do. No other Patriot site talks convention of states. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I did it. So in our early days, if you look at our earlier material, and I realized that because it's not a well-known topic, and we were getting far more views when I was just doing the local buzz story and just kind of following that pattern that everybody else was following. We were getting more views, we were getting more attention and things like that. But in the end, like YouTube is, when I decided to go on my own path and really embrace this and make it all about this, it's and just kind of give people that feel of how this ties into so much. Like the topics are broad enough, right? That they even though they don't fix everything, right? They don't fix the border. There's still other things in there. But here's the thing, right? Once it's done, like not only does it have a massive impact, like term limits affects everything. That's the instant fix. Now it doesn't permanently fix things. We still have to be responsible in elections and things like that, but it still fixes, it gets all the garbage out of Congress immediately, right? Out of the deep state immediately. It removes all that garbage right off the chute. It gives us a slate to work with, right? And so, but the real beauty, right, is that when it's over and the process is completed, there will be no JBS. There will be no argument. The process will have been completed and the world didn't end. So now all that's left is our constitutional power. And now the process is defined, and now we're really powerful. Now, when the federal government gets out of line, it's not like it's not like all the grassroots just disappear. Now we're still there. We're still there. And you know what? We're a little annoyed about the border, right? So at that point, we turn around and we're like, all right, well, we're on the path. We just cleaned up this fiscal mess, or at least got us on the path to clean it up. That's going to take decades to fully clean. But if we're on that path, we're good. We just handled a lot of this government overreach nonsense. You pulled the teeth out of these regulatory agencies, and we got these term limits in. But this border situation is a problem. You start rallying the troops to start dealing with the border through amendment, and I guarantee you that border gets sealed up. I don't care who's in office. I don't care who's in office. As soon as they see 5 or 6 states get on board, and that won't be hard because the border states will jump on board right away. Right? And we don't even have to fulfill that convention. And that's where the beauty comes in, is that they just need to know we're at it again. And they'll fix things. They've done it before. They've done it before. If they know that we're going to take more power from them, they'll do it. Because they don't want to give up power. Right now, they don't believe that we'll take it. They don't. They don't believe us. They don't believe that it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. The question is when. How much more do they have to degrade our society to make someone get up, to make someone who cares and doesn't want to see this nation go to crap, and doesn't want to see this ridiculous version of history taught to our children, who doesn't want to see, the lies and the sexualization of children, who doesn't want to see our currency go to crap. Those people are out there, and a lot of them are Democrats too, folks. A lot of them are Democrats too. And the fact of the matter is, like, we're all in this together. Let's go back to fighting about old school Democrat, Republican stuff, when this is all over. But let's get this done. Let's get this done. Right. All right. So let me see what else is here. Great job. Love your show. You keep it simple and focused. Yeah, it kind of is what it is, man. Right. It's like, it kind of is what it is. Like people just need to understand, I kind of unleash, like I watch guys like Mark Meckler and those folks, and they're so professional, and they're like, they're so like on it from they got to represent, and then I come on and I'm just like, it's like I got to unleash all this stuff somewhere, and I just like to unleash it around people, who are either like-minded or at least open, to listening. I'll get killed out there. Everyone here gets government money. Look, that's fine. Everyone there gets government. It's fine. Look, people who get government money, like, ask them questions. Don't ask them questions from a partisan perspective. Just ask them what their opinions are on certain things. Do you like the fact that, politicians are in office for 35, 40 years, or would you like to see term limits? Right? Just ask it from a straight American question, right? Do you like the fact, are you okay with the fact that we're $31 trillion in debt and that it now costs $7 for a dozen eggs? Are you okay with that? Would you like to see fiscal restraints put on the federal government? I guarantee you they say yes. Okay. Right. Do you like the fact, that people were losing their jobs over vaccinations and the government was really pressuring, private citizens and ruining their lives over vaccinations? No, I didn't like that. Well, would you like to, force these decisions to be made by elected officials that we put in office? Yeah, I would like that. And you'll find that there are many Democrats. Right now, it's likely going to be 1 and 2. All right, probably more than that. It's probably 75% of them. All right, because that's how many are not opposed. Right, that's how many are not opposed. Democrat voters are not the crazy people. They're not the AOCs. Okay, yes, they vote Democrat, but they, like many Republicans, are just living in this zombie world. They go and they click that D because their mom clicked the D, and they don't follow politics. They don't pay attention, but they think all of this stuff is madness. Okay, they think all this stuff is madness. And if talked to rationally, they want the same things in many areas that you do. Certainly in these three. And these three are the only ones we're worried about. But I guarantee you, the more you talk to them, even on other issues, you're going to hear they're not okay with men going in the women's bathroom. They're not okay with men playing women's sports. They're not okay with their children being taught men can have babies. They're not okay with transgenders dressed up in all kinds of wacky, gear doing story time with freaking 5-year-olds. They're not okay with this stuff. We think they are because we watch the news. Or we don't have many Democrats in our social circle. But in the end, they're not okay with this stuff either. There's a lot of Kennedy Democrats out there who think wokeism is insane. We have to look, I don't want people labeling me, and I don't want to label someone else. I see the world as the country at least, as two types of people. There are patriots and there are Marxists. That's it. Like if you disagree with me on the abortion issue, which is a hot topic, right? I'll pick that because it's the hottest topic. I'm pro-life. Let's say you're not. That doesn't make you not a patriot. That might affect you in God's eyes, but as far as your love of country, like we can agree on still term limits and everything else, right? So if you're pro-union and I'm against unions, that doesn't mean they hate the country, right? But if you're Marxist, yeah, by definition, you hate the country. And there's only I guarantee you, when you look at that cost stat of support, the 75% who are not opposed, it's like 50 that are for it and like 24 or 5% that are not against it or don't know, right? They don't know how they feel about it. They're waiting for you to go and educate them, right? So when you look at that 70, I guarantee you it's that other 25% who are the Marxists. Like I've been saying forever, when I did the videos on mass formation and we talked about Solomon Ash's conforming studies, the numbers always came out similar. It was always 30% swore that they were right, even in the face of being obviously wrong. 40% knew that the answer was wrong that they gave, but they did it for the sake of conforming. And then the other 30% were like, hell no, that's the wrong answer. They didn't conform, and they asked questions, and they went against the grain, right? And it's that 40% in the middle who empower the 30% who are deuterus. Because those ones in the middle who are like, yeah, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't want to be different. You're screwing it up for everybody because you're making the other 30% think that there's really 70% who agree with them. You follow me? I did this video on mass formation with Dr. Mateus Desmond. You can check it out. I did a couple like that, but what's up there? Exo MDO MDX, code name John. What's up, John? How are you, sir? How are you? Danny Mayer Jr., as long as they get their money and they really don't care about this stuff at all. Yeah, again, like I understand that's the narrative that a lot of us go with. I'm just saying I've stopped thinking that way, and I start talking with people more, and I do find that even someone who absolutely hates Donald Trump, they've even got some level of Trump dysphoria. If you get off that topic, just start looking for things that you agree on. You start looking for things that you think, and I can tell you as an Article 5 guy, talk about Article 5. Educate yourself on it, talk about it, and stay on those topics. Don't waver. Don't let the conversation go into some wackadoo, Now, if the person you're talking to turns out to be a Marxist, right? Because a lot of these Marxists don't even know they're Marxists. Like they think Marxism has never even been used yet, or it's never they think it's just a philosophy. Like if you get one of those people, all right, it's going to be tough. But if you're going to find that not everybody's like you assume, as I did, that everybody's that way, but they're not. They're not. And trust me, we're going to need Democrat voters to get this done. It's not a thing that's going to get done with Republicans only. It's not happening. It's not happening. That's correct. I am winding down. I'm winding down. Good night, Mern. Yeah, and I'm about to call it a day too, folks. Hey, to the folks on Rumble, I know there have been at least 10 or 15 of you hanging on throughout this 2 hours. I know it's not the same 10, 15 people, but if you could take a moment, just click that subscribe button. I am definitely trying to grow the Rumble following, more so even than any of the other channels. Facebook, we already have like 16,000. YouTube, I don't know if anyone even knows I'm on YouTube, that I don't call and tell that I'm on YouTube. So, but if you are clicking on YouTube, make sure you click the bell with the all notifications. I say that, I know everybody says that, but honestly, you'll never get any notification if you don't click all notifications. You will never know, as that's just how it's been. YouTube and I have a very tenuous relationship. I don't know why. I think it's a good platform until they start banning me, but I'm actually under restriction right now. I still got an offense that doesn't come off until the end of the month. Seems like my entire stay on YouTube for the last 2 years has been under some sort of punishment. But that being said, that's why I'm trying to grow Rumble, because I really, if I could grow Rumble large enough, I'll just blow it off altogether and call it. I just, I'll do like Kim Iverson and do like segments and then be like, all right, everyone on YouTube, I'm leaving. And if you can continue to watch, if you go to Rumble. So we'll see how that goes. All right, last comment. DEFCON. Oh, wait, did I miss that? Here we go. DEFCON 2. Yeah, exactly. Article 5 is DEFCON 2. That's exactly right. All right, folks, as I work my way through the navigation of the million clips that I have going on, I will tell you, thank you for signing on. Join us Wednesday, every Wednesday night, 5:30 p.m. is the consistent live broadcast. So no matter what happens during the week, you will see me on Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're doing Cali time over here, folks. I'm in the People's Republic. All right. Until next time, folks, I'm out.
And like that,